Hi everyone, welcome. Is this really loud enough? Okay, so my name is Brianna. I want to thank you all for coming to our panel discussion, Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is. And I'm going to give you guys just a little rundown of our collective, what we have going on for the rest of the week, and then I'll pass the mic over to Ashley for my keynote. So we started a collective called Crew Collab, and the goal of this collective is to put on community interactive events that can bridge the gap between the younger and older generation, as well as promote a lifestyle of mindfulness, community, and intention. So we've had a week of events this week to celebrate the transitioning of Garden of Eden, which will now be the Garden Holistic Center. So Monday we had a Black business pop-up shop. Tuesday we introduced my friend Maharo as a local writer on the Bigger Piece. Wednesday we had a family paint night where we painted the garden logo. Today we will have an amazing panel discussion with some amazing community members. And then tomorrow we will wrap it up with our last hurrah cookout, which will be followed by an art exhibit featuring myself, Maharo, and Demaya as artists. Now I will pass the the mic over to Ashley. Oh, she can have one to explain the set of the film.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, so my name is Ashley. You guys can call me Sister Stens. You guys can hear me? Louder. My name is Ashley. You guys can call me Sister Sense from Transcending Alchemy. Those candles that sneak back there, you got plant-based candles, infused with essential oils and herbs. And tonight's candle is called the Ancestors Gift. It's an oregano candle infused with thyme. This candle is very beneficial to boost your immunity, to open your throat chakra and your heart chakra. And that's why I want to dedicate this candle to Zeth, because he was someone who very much embodied opening up his heart chakra and his throat chakra. If you knew him, he would embody being an authentic individual, and that's what we want to have today, an authentic conversation. So I'm going to pass it to our moderator, Brother Gay, to get us started.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I do want to add one last thing. We will be selling refreshments, so we'll be having a blueberry rosemary lemonade. So if you guys are interested, you can just flag me, Ashley, or Maharo down, and we'll get you taken care of.
So, good evening. So, before we go any further, let me just do something in somewhat of an African style. And I'm just going to pour this little bit of water, which is meant to be a libation, as we bring in Brother Zach. As we bring him in, as we bring in Brother Zach. So if everybody could just say after me, Maduba Fu, Brother Zach. Maduba Fu, Brother Zach. We honor Brother Zach and we bring him in. And again, before I get started with this wonderful panel, this is also special to me. Zach, I was here almost every day upon reconnecting with him. But this is a clear transition of his idea being kept alive by this wonderful, beautiful young princess and her team. This is a big deal. And they've honored and they've served this community at such a young, tender age already faithfully. So I'm glad to be here. And actually, I was honored to be asked. Now, I was introduced as Brother Gab. For those people that know me, that's my African name, Brother Gab. And for those of you that don't know me, my enslaved name is Gary Porter. All right, so I'm honored to be here, and I'm honored to be here doing something that we have seen Brother must do time and time and time and time again in our community, facilitate these very important conversations. So I'm honored to be able to put these questions out. So I don't know, well, I know everybody, but I'm just going to take a seat and put these questions out, and we'll see where this goes. I will try to make sure that there is time for some Q&As at the end, and I hope that there is. So this is to everyone on the panel. Can you give your story, how you came into the current work that you're doing?
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know what I do, to be honest with you. All right. In terms of working in the Black community, I grew up in a little all-white town called Meriden, Connecticut. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar. I know some people are. It was growing up. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm so close to this microphone, to the speaker. All right, so for me, growing up in an all-white, lily white town, 99.5% white people, it was different for me. So we grew up in a town that was completely devoid of Black culture. My brothers and I were the only Black kids in our elementary school or middle school. It wasn't until high school that we really started going to school with other people of color. So during that time, middle school, high school, I was always involved in trying to organize Black students. When you talk about how I got involved in the work that I'm in, I've always been engaged in trying to organize Black students. In high school, organized walkouts, started working, organized strikes. Anytime we felt like there was any type of discriminatory type of actions taken or microaggressions way back then. So I've always been involved. We started the Black Unity Expo. I left college to go back there to create a Black Unity Expo, drill teams, Black history classes. So it's something in my family, we've always been involved in some capacity doing that stuff. I'm a preacher's kid. So we took advantage of the fact that we had access to the church and we would just organize activities. From there, I went to New Haven, tutoring, organizing. From there, I found a job in Waterbury, did the same thing. Got tired of Connecticut, decided I'd come up here because came up here to visit in Springfield and all types of Black businesses, Black neighborhoods, Black middle class. Came up here and found out they were still lacking in some capacity. So we started teaching Black history with Tim Jackson in his little apartment on Dawes Street. So in Springfield, I started out teaching Black history. From there, I met Dora Robinson, who asked me to come to the MLK Center, and the rest is history. We've done any type of work that needed to be done in the community. We just jumped in and I started doing whatever we do. The newspaper publishing, I'm presently the publisher of the Metro Record newspaper. In Meriden, I started a newspaper called The New African Contender. Again, we had no Black media vehicles. So I started that. We were putting out about 10,000 copies a month down in the Meriden, Wallingford area. Got up here and decided I wanted to do it again. Me and Andrew Keaton started a couple of years ago. Then I ended up taking an offer to work with the mayor for 12 years. When I left his office, I decided it was time to bring it back because we needed another paper on top of the point of view to make sure that we covered news. Nothing against the point of view. I just felt the need for a different type of news. And that's it. So just kind of letting you hear. I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah.
Like D, I don't really know what I could say that I do, but I've been doing a lot. So in terms of the garden of Eden, I started doing this work at 15 years old. When my dad got the first space on the top right, it was a small dance studio. And on his journey to wanting to create a space for Black people to eat healthy and get their fitness in, which I had no idea of the vision. Like I was so young, I had no idea. And then fast forward, we moved over to the left side where we partnered up with Judge Stan and Kumar in our journey, where we created a fitness center where they were just offering nutrition classes. And then they saw a need to offer food for the fitness clients because, as we know, nutrition or health is 80% nutrition and 20% fitness.
And so they saw that people were getting results, but how can we maximize these results? And so we created a very, very small kitchen. I would say it was probably like a 20 by 20 kitchen where myself and my little cousin Sadi would come on our summer vacations and we would cook the things that we would cook at my dad's house. And looking back at the memories on Facebook, we've come so far. And so the presentation was really off. Yardley back there, she was a part of the founding family of this place. Then we moved down here, and as we started growing our knowledge of food and the food that our ancestors once ate and how we can get back to that, we started learning more about herbs, sea moss, offering detox programs, and a lot of things. Right now, I am in charge of transitioning our services, so we're going to be moving from the primarily restaurant model to a more mobile format. And so we're going to be having an online store for our herbs and all of our materials. But I'm right now working on a formula for an in-home cooking class where I believe that if we are pushing a lifestyle of holistic health, it isn't sustainable if you don't know how to cook the food that you're eating. And so a lot of times people come every day because they don't know how to cook the food. And so in this new chapter, we want to push sustainable lifestyle. So that's where that will come from. And then a lot of community organizing with Crew Collab, and then our podcast having these conversations as well. So that's a little bit of what I do.
Thank you. I'm City Councilor Tracy Whitfield. First, I just want to thank you all for having me as a panelist. You asked me and I couldn't say no if I wanted to, because I was one of the everydayers. Sorry, I haven't been everydayer anymore, but I was one because I can't cook the food, so I spent the money. I want to thank Gary. What's your actual name? I'm sorry, I don't want to use your enslaved one. Brother Gary, right? Yeah. Okay. I think I got it. I don't know. But I want to thank you. I want to thank Dee Moss. It's our first panel together, but we do so much work in the community together, and it's our first panel. So I'm really honored to be with my brother Dee Moss, and we'll get to know each other better. So, and thank all of you for coming to even just listen to us. So I'm not gonna go back to where I started because it's a long way back. I'm gonna just go back to like when I started community organizing, because I knew I wanted to get involved. It's not something I did with my family all my life, you know. My family is from North Carolina, but I was born and raised in Springfield, and so they came here to make a better life. So it was a lot of them working, not really being involved in politics and that, because they just wanted to do better for us. Like my mom picked cotton, like they were sharecroppers, you know. And so all of her and her siblings left as soon as they turned 18 from that life and moved north. And so that's how our family migrated here. So they were working a lot, and so I was a young mom. I didn't focus on any of the politics or community work. I focused on raising my children. And I was working 2 jobs, going to school at the same time, getting them to where they need to be. But then I was like, I got to teach them other things. We got to do more. And so I just started doing little things like just joining United Way days and just little things to get involved in the community. Like it doesn't take a whole lot. But once you get it and you feel how it feels just to help other people, you want to do more and more and more and more. And so I kept doing more organizing and getting on committees, meeting folks like Dee Moss and others, and just started getting more involved. And that's just how I started the path of community organizing. But then I also got a job with the mayor, working in the finance department. Not always good experience for Black people down in City Hall working on this administration. And so I was working in finance and I was questioning a lot of things. I'm like, we got all this funding and this resource. How come my community don't know about it? I don't see this money going to my people. Like, I didn't even know about it until I started working in the finance office. I didn't know these resources exist. I didn't know Health and Human Services had that and housing had this program. Like, there were people getting all this money to buy houses and things like that. None of our community knew. And so I started telling people, like, did you know about this? Did you know about that? And they were like, no. We need somebody to run. Who's going to run? We need somebody to run who's going to tell us. I said, I'll do it. So I called Dee Moss because he was the closest thing I knew at City Hall. And I said, can you help me? And without a doubt, without hesitation, He said yes. And that's how our campaign started. And that's how we started running. And Daryl wrote everything for me at first because I didn't know what to do, what to say. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Never did this before. I'm not a politician. And he was like, we're going to get you there. So lo and behold, we formed a team. Other people started joining and we ran. And the first time we did not win. So I'm going to tell folks, you don't always win, but you win just by running because you learn so much. So we didn't win the first time, but one of the city councilors moved to go work for the mayor. And so I automatically moved up because out of the top 5, I came in 6th, and it's only 5 at large seats. I came in 6th place. And so when he moved up, I automatically moved up to that seat. And that's how I became. But the 2 times after that, I ran and won. So, so that's how I became a city councilor. And I mean, I know we're going to ask questions about the role, so I guess I will stop there because this question just says, how did I get involved in doing the work? But that's all. You just take one step, like do one thing in the community, and then people are going to start pulling at you to do more and more and more and more. And all of a sudden, you're like this community person, right, Brother True? You just become. It's not a method or a science to it. So I encourage everyone who wants to get involved, do something small to learn it, and people are gonna see you like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And you just get involved. And that's how it goes.
My name is Yusuf Abdul Ali, born and raised in Springfield, right across from Anthony's, if anybody knows what that is, where you get the penny candy. Pete's, it was once called Pete's, right on Kenyon Oak Road.
That's where I grew up.
Born and raised there, one of 7 kids, single mom. So, you know, for me growing up, my mother was always looking for, you know, positive role models to put into my life. So I was a community center kid, played basketball at Dunbar for forever, since I was from 6 to probably 18. And, you know, just grew up in the community centers around the basketball. Ended up going to the Leadership Charter School. I'm not sure if anybody familiar with that. So I was the first class in New Leadership. So I was for basketball wise in the city, I was pretty good, but I ended up going to Leadership and we didn't have a team. So for me, like freshman year, I was supposed to be playing varsity. And coaches was asking me to go to varsity. My mother was like, nah, you're not going. I don't want you in the Springfield school system. You're going to this charter school. So I didn't play high school basketball to my senior year. I only played 1 year high school ball. And then once that was up, I ended up getting a scholarship to a Division II school out in Boston. And that's kind of how my path kind of grew. Got me to college, graduated, came back, started coaching high school basketball. And that's exactly like Tracy said, that's how you kind of get involved. You start meeting people, you start getting introduced to giving back to the community and the role that you can have in the community. So I did that for like 2-3 years. And then after that, I was like, you know what, I want to take this somewhere else. So I ended up applying for Springfield College and getting my master's in sports management. Got that all while substitute teaching, working, going to school. So I was doing a lot that time, but you know, I've always wanted to kind of give back to the community. So once I got my master's, I started a nonprofit program called City of Guards. And I put on my first event. I just called every basketball player that I knew in Springfield was like, hey, let's meet down at the Hall of Fame. I rented out the Hall of Fame. I said, let's meet down at the Hall of Fame. We're going to play one-on-one. We're going to put a price on it and just show up. So everybody showed up and started buzzing. And then, you know, with the profits, somebody hit me up and was like, hey, can you help get this kid in prep school? He needs some money. So I made some profits from the event. So I said, you know what? Just gave him the profits as a scholarship. Like, here, give it to him. You know what I mean? So he ended up going to prep school, ended up paying for, like, I think it was like 2 semesters of his thing. And then I realized, like, I have something here. So then every year forward for 7 years, I did that, kept doing it. Whatever profits I made, I would give a scholarship and then roll those profits over and keep building, you know, the program. And it got big. I had a lot of people involved, a lot of support from the city. But one thing that, you know, I see that you guys are trying to do, Demaya, is the attention to details, and then also just passion. You know what I'm saying? The passion you guys are putting into what you guys are doing. That's something that I like with, you know what I mean? I was passionate for basketball. I saw myself in those high school kids that I had come and play in my tournaments because I was the same kid, tall T, white ups. You know what I mean? So I see these kids in me. So that's kind of why I did what I did. And, you know, it grew from there. And then I ended up moving to Connecticut. Actually, I'm sorry. I ended up coaching Division I in New York. Didn't really like it. So I ended up getting a job, moved to Connecticut. And I started this company. It's called the Bitcoin Classic. I'm a crypto head. I invest in crypto. But I started a tournament. It's called the Bitcoin Classic. And we've been putting on tournaments all throughout the U.S. And we're currently putting one on in August at Rucker Park in New York, which is the legendary court. So just trying to, you know, figure out a way where I can give back knowledge and give back to the community that I come from. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, that was well worth the introduction from everybody. Before I move on, I just want to make, as a moderator, just a couple of observations. So, you know, what we know about Darryl is if you listen to his narrative, his story, when he went into the mayor's office, he didn't stop the work. He didn't stop the work. Eventually, that's why they came after him. He never once stopped the work. And so it's important that we understand that no matter where you go, this work, it's not just important, it's mission critical. It's mission critical. And Tracy, I don't see you as a politician, my sister. I see you as an Afro-tician.
Yeah, know it.
As an Afro-tician. You know, you really care about our community. And we already know about the wonderful work Sister's doing. And brother, your narrative is just a very clear Pan-Africanist narrative where we do for us. And so we've got a strong panel. Before I go on to the next question, I introduce myself. What I didn't tell you is that we have an all-Black mental health clinic here in the city of Springfield. And we now have a substance use clinic. That is going to be a game changer in our community. And we are going to reimagine how we do this work. So imagine bringing MAT, medical assistant treatment, right to the homes of our brothers and sisters that need it. That's where we're going. That's our vision. And so to my Afro-tician sister, we need you to help drive that, okay? It's mission critical to our people. So the next question is again an all-panel question. How do you define a change maker? How do you define a change maker?
Okay. So I think that everyone in this room is a change maker, right? I think it's not like how big of a change you make, right? It's just that you do something to make a change. So I'm gonna just go back to me and Darryl's relationship, how we met. We met in City Hall, we both worked there. And I too got pushed out of City Hall, and a lot of people don't know that story. When I worked in finance, they would say things like, because we monitored like processes and procedures that had financial transactions. And so if a mistake was made by a Black or Latino person, my finance team was all white. I was the only person of color. And they would say things like, oh, they're incompetent, oh, they're stupid, oh, they're mean. And I'm like, no. But if it was a white person, it was like, oh, they're having a bad day. So me being Tracy always, no, they're not having a bad day. They're incompetent. They're stupid. Oh, and that Black one, the one that you said was incompetent and stupid, was actually really having a bad day because they rarely make mistakes. And so I always spoke up. And even people didn't know that I was speaking up. Darryl knew, right? So Darryl always knew, had my back, supporting me, and encouraged me not to be quiet. And so me not being quiet, they kind of like, I applied for a different position because I wasn't going to work for a certain person. they extended my probation. I'm like, you're extending my probation? I never heard of that. Like, why? Oh, because you want me to finish writing this capital budget of the budget, and then you're going to terminate me. Like, those were my words to them. And I finished writing the capital budget, and guess what happened? Because I was on probation, so there wasn't much that I could do, but I seen it coming. So I go into the office and I say, oh, why are you terminating me? Can you give me a reason why? Because my principals love me, the schools love me because I moved to the school side of finance. And then radio silence, nothing. They had my packet. They was like, making sure you're getting unemployment, everything set up for me. And then they was like, oh, do you want me to walk you out and get your stuff? No, I'll get my stuff. Thank you for the opportunity. And I walked out and I left. But just doing that little bit of stuff made me a change maker, because I'm not going to let anybody sit there and degrade our people. Never, right? Especially if you know what's going on inside finance and you know that they're doing wrong. And so I don't think that a change maker has to be a politician or athletician or a media writer. It can be any one of us. If you see something and there's a need and you are like you just feel it, you're passionate about it on the inside, and you really want to do this work, go for it. Go for it. You don't need anyone's recognition. You don't need anyone's praise. It's something that you want to do, and you go for it. And I think that's what makes people real change makers. And that's why I'm so proud of these young ladies in here going for what they've talked to me about, this passion in the past. And I didn't really understand the concept of it all. But now that it's coming together, I see it and it's coming full circle, and they're passionate about it and they stuck with it and they're sticking with it. And that's how you make change. Whatever it is that you feel like you want to do, stick with it. Make it happen. It might take 10 years, but the change is going to come. And so I think that we all got change maker inside of us.
I would agree with what Tracy said. I'm not that old, but in the last, I guess you could say, year and a half of my life, no, but when I say things like I've been working the last couple of years, you will be like, oh, you're not that old. So in the last couple of years, I've been trying to really think about that word because I think everybody has the ability to make change in every area of life that we're in. And so I think that was one of the important things when putting this panel together, was that change is possible in any area of life. And so like Tracy said to me, change is if you're passionate about something and you can inspire people to do better, if you can push for people to do better, Black people most specifically, then you are a change maker. And so I think that that's something that's really important for me, is to see how an individual can be a change maker, whether small or big, but still knowing like, okay, this person, like they're passionate and they're working towards this, and so they're making change. That's my thing.
No, I agree with both of you guys. You guys watch Insecure?
Yep.
What did Issa do? What was the name of her thing? I forgot what it was, but that's like the type of projection I see you guys on, like that. That's serious. Like that's what I'm envisioning in my head. And shout out to y'all, because this is, like I said, when you see somebody passionate, it kind of rubs off on you. And when you gave me a call about doing this, that's why I was so quick to like, of course, like this is something that, with City of Guards I was trying to do. Is just bring that passion, add a little more. Like when I was bringing it back to basketball, I mean, because that's what I know, but when I started that first one, a lot of people weren't putting in the extra effort or doing, like marketing and reaching out to people. It was just the same thing. Like if you know the Schoolfield League, this was the Schoolfield, and then it was the one out near Eastville Mall. It was like two tournaments in the city, but they were just kind of like resting on their laurels. Like they was good. They were, every year it was the same thing. So I was like, no, I'm gonna mix it up. You know what I mean? And not just for the kids, but just for other companies to be like, or organizations to be like, yo, we gotta put more into this for the kids. We gotta do this. And honestly, like after I felt, that I put that first one on, I started seeing other people reaching out to me like, yo, who did you use for your marketing? Who did you use for your pictures? And it kind of spread. And now we have, we got multiple organizations doing a lot of different things and putting that passion, putting that effort in. So I think sometimes it's just taking that leap and being confident and just go, using your passion as that motivator to kind of get you to that next level. So, that's what I think changes.
Everything they said. I don't think I really need to add much to it. I think, for me, I look at, becoming a social change agent. That's how I look at it. It's that person who sees possibility when nobody else does. And as Tracy said, when you wake up in the morning and it's like, you envision something happening and you just do it. You don't ask for permission. You don't look for acknowledgement. You do it because it has to get done. Change makers are the ones who, they organize when nobody wants to be involved. And if nobody gets involved, they'll do it by themselves until people see. There's that old saying, everybody complains about the river being dirty, but never acknowledges the man who jumps in the river to get the dirt, all the garbage and everything out. Sometimes you gotta be that garbage man and go and just jump in and do it. People are gonna hate you for no reason at all. People will put you under a spotlight, they'll criticize you, their expectations of you are just become so unrealistically enormous. You have to be prepared for that. Real change makers don't even think about that stuff. They do and they do and they do because it has to get done. At the end of the day, that's it, man. And it's like nobody asked to be a change maker. You just feel it. You hear this inner voice that says, get it done. Whatever. But if it's the city of guards, I think there's a program we can do where we can educate, we can elevate, we can actually let the kids have fun at the same time. Yeah, I've been here for 25 years. Nobody looked at it from that perspective and taking the funds and using it to enhance people's academic, their post-high school life. To be able to envision that and see it through from conception to implementation and not really caring if you fail, because failure is not an option. And even when you have pitfalls, it doesn't stop you because you get up and you keep working. For me, that's a change maker.
From the one that didn't have anything to add.
Well,
Right.
yet again, it's very clear that we have a panel of change makers. I once, in my line of work, one of the things that I once heard was power is the ability to define one's reality and have them believe, right? And that's the type of power that all of you have on this panel. You have that power to reverse what's been done to us and have us believe in a whole different reality. So I'm grateful to all the work that everybody's doing. This is going to be, the next one's going to be another panel question, and then we're going to kind of break it out and start talking to individuals. So again, to the panel, how has Springfield embodied grassroots activism?
Well, the building that you're sitting in, I think that my dad was really responsible. Like, we used to have conversations about this all the time. Dad, you're responsible for bringing healthy food and the idea of healthy food to Springfield. And when I was a kid, he was on the journey for several years. But when this building became what it was, I think that it created a whole another movement of healthy eating, but most importantly, plant-based lifestyles and the science behind food and getting back to what we used to do before we came on those slave ships. And so I think that just giving tribute to him, in Springfield in the last decade, he has embodied grassroots activism when it comes to food and being mindful about what you're eating. So.
I said it before, but community centers for me, the community centers were everything. That's where I found some positive role models. Dunbar Community Center, to be more specific, but I'm not sure what they're doing now. I don't know kind of how that is now. If they still have all those programs, but I remember every day I would be in the community center, just whether it's playing basketball, whether it's, enrichment classes. So I know that when I was growing up, that's kind of what I remembered, and that's kind of what I took from, the grassroots is just finding those, those male adults in that community center that's willing to help out, and they're doing it on their own time. They're not doing it, they're not getting paid, they're not doing anything. So they're there for a reason. But that, I would say that's kind of what Springfield embodied for me.
Briefly, I think that becoming a change maker and grassroots activism go together. So we have gun violence in the city of Springfield, right? And it's targeting our Black and brown, mostly young men in the city of Springfield. And so what a bunch of us, even Brother True sitting back there, and Brother, say it again. Kareem, yes, Brother Kareem. Sorry, Brother Kareem. I was sitting over here trying to figure out your name the whole time. So what we did is we started a Gun Violence Elimination Alliance, and they also have the mediation program where they work with young folks to get them to solve their problems through working together, through talking, and so that's grassroots activism. Like, you take something where there's a need, right? Violence is killing our people. There is a need to stop it. And you don't need a whole bunch of people behind you and all this recognition, because they've been doing it for a long time. The mediation program, nobody knew about it. They've been getting hard groups together to resolve these problems that they have together to save lives. And no one knew about it. I didn't know about it until I started Gun Violence Elimination Alliance, and we try to bring all these organizations that's combating gun violence together to see how we can make a larger impact. And what they're doing is amazing and wonderful, and they actually have saved some lives. And so if you want to be a change maker, you probably start with grassroots activism, right? And you just do it from the passion of the need, and the need is to stop the gun violence in the city of Springfield, specifically amongst our Black and brown youth in the community. And so it happens. We just need to get behind it more and support it more and figure out how to grow it. And I'm in a position to help that happen now, and we'll talk about that later.
On the street for embodied grassroots activism. I was trying to figure out what that actually meant. So what I'm gonna say is, Springfield has always, how can I say this? There's always been strong grassroots organizers. I think the beautiful thing about Springfield is the access that the community allows. It doesn't matter who you are. If you decide to step up and get involved, there's a certain welcome. How can I say this? People tend to be open to it. You don't have to be popular. You don't have to come from a legacy family. You don't have to be an elected official in Springfield. You can just be somebody who wants to do something different. And I think people tend to embrace that. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Springfield. When you look at the rich legacy, the history of Springfield, and things that have happened over the last 50, 60 years, Springfield, Black Springfield, I can't get into Black and brown, but I can say Black Springfield was pretty much built on the backs of activists, man. When I moved here, I looked at all the nonprofits they had. Some focused on economic development, some community development, some like the grassroots, social ills. We had credit unions. I mean, there was all types of stuff happening, just people who wanted to see things be done. I look at the MLK Center and how it started out at the church when they talked about the mustard seed project and how the people went into their own pockets to kind of underwrite the cost of that process. And these are the folks who get no recognition. There's been so many things that I've seen happen in Springfield. I know going about 12 years down in that place, just all the different faces and voices of people who would come up and advocate on behalf of the Black community. This is a city where, activism is actually encouraged, and up to an extent, it's kind of expected. And it's different when you're not from here, because you see things that folks who are homegrown don't see and they take for granted. I think this city here, when it comes down to the Black community, has more capacity here. Having lived in New Haven, Waterbury, Shreveport, Louisiana, I'm telling you, I would take Springfield over any of those places, because Springfield has capacity, and that capacity is built on the backs of people who are activists, people who have no problem speaking out. Off the top of my head, I can start naming folks who have been vigilant, assertive, and aggressive when it comes down to speaking on behalf of the Black community. When one person shuts down and stops talking, somebody seems to pick up the baton in this city, and they keep it going. I think that's pretty dope. So when you talk about how it's embodied grassroots activism in our community, let me just tell you this: Springfield, the Black voting community, is the strongest, one of the largest and strongest voting blocks in the city, in the region. So we always talk about, the messaging, and I'll get that when they talk about the newspaper piece, why it's so important. But the messaging is crazy because people always say we don't have unity, and we don't vote, and we don't start businesses. But we have more Black businesses per capita than New Haven, Hartford, Waterbury, cities with similar, populations and demographics. We're there. When we talk about leadership, again, there's always somebody who steps up. So when we talk about embracing, the embodiment of grassroots activism, Springfield pretty much has a template that could be replicated across the country if we can just figure it out and stop all the hate.
Daryl, you're used to holding the mic, so this question we're going to direct just to Sister Councilor Whitfield. Can you dispel the misconceptions of politics? Give your reasons as why local politics are so crucial.
Yes. Yes, I can. First, I want to say everybody in here who can vote count, okay? It counts. I hear too many people saying I'm not going to vote because it doesn't count. It counts. We had some people lose a race that we really needed to be in a seat by 10 votes, by 72 votes, because those 72 people that said it doesn't matter, it mattered. So I want you to know that your vote counts. The second thing I want to do is folks that's been incarcerated can vote when they get out in Massachusetts. You can't do it in every state, but in Massachusetts, you can vote once you are out of jail. So we're trying to start a program where we register them and educate them while they're incarcerated so they know when they get out of jail that they can vote. That is a need because those folks want to get involved too, and they deserve to be. They're still citizens, residents of the city of Springfield, and they need to exercise their rights. And so if you hear anybody say that they can't vote because they've been incarcerated, that is not true in this state of Massachusetts. They can't vote. Why local politics is so...
Just a clarifying question. So I want to make sure people understand. So no matter whether you're a felon or a misdemeanor, you can vote.
Yes.
So everybody in this venue here and out in virtual world,
Yes.
you heard it. Make sure you internalize that and exercise your right to vote.
And that's important to say because we were targeted for many years. And so they want us to think that we can't vote because we were incarcerated, but they targeted us on marijuana charges and incarcerated us at astronomical rates. And then when we get out, they got us programmed to think that we can't use our voice. And that is further from the truth. We were targeted, but when we get out, we can change, and we do, and we can use our voices. And a lot of times we didn't have to change. We are like arrested for things that we didn't even do, right? We don't have to change who we are. The system needs to change. That's why local politics is so important. It's important for many reasons, but I like to stay on the financial aspect of it. So all the decisions of where the funding goes is made on the local level. So all this federal money that they might be talking about and the president and doesn't happen there. It happens right here. The mayor's administration, the finance office makes a decision on where ARPA funds go, where the grants go, where the resources go, where the funding goes in the city of Springfield, not on the federal level. So the president's administration trickles it down to the state. Now, there is state level funding that can come directly to you and I too through different programs. And so it's important to know that we can advocate through that first. So a lot of times we blame a lot of things on the city councilors that we don't have any jurisdiction over, but the state reps do and the senators do, but we don't put a lot of pressure on them because we think they're at the state. No, they got funding resources too that they can bring to us, and we need to figure out what those funding resources are. And recently I said, I want to know what an earmark is and where it goes and how it's spent and why aren't we getting it more in the Black community? And so now we are. They're giving us a little bit more, but we're going for the gusto. And so it's important. Other thing is, like, if we don't lobby for property taxes, if we're homeowners, they're going to continue to go up and we're going to continue to pay them. But know what else is going up? Gas, food, cost of living overall. We can't afford that. So we got to advocate for that with the administration now. Local politics matter because if we don't have a mayor sitting in the seat that cares for us, then we deserve what we get. If we're not out here voting and we keep voting for the mayor that's not treating us right, then we deserve what we get. So we got to come together collectively as a people. And I said Black and brown when it came to shooting deaths because it's attacking Black and brown. But let's not get it twisted. I'm Black and I fight Black. Okay? Let's not get it twisted. Now, I fight for all people, but Black people first. Because usually if the most disenfranchised group moves up, everybody move up by nature, right? And so there's things like fighting for street repairs. You know, there's some neighborhoods whose streets look beautiful. You're headed to it. Keep going to East Forest Park. Their streets always get paved and it's beautiful. And no offense to anybody in here that lives in East Forest Park, but then you go down to Mason Square or you go to some other neighborhoods and their streets aren't getting paved because guess what? People don't know local politics. They don't know who to call and who to advocate for and who to call to get these streets paved. Since you've been a kid, you know what I'm saying? That long ago. Me too, right? So you gotta know your local politics and your local politicians because you vote us in to do this work, right? And so you need to demand it, not just from Tracy Whitfield, but there's a Tim Allen, white. There's a Mike Fitton, white. There's a Kateri Walsh, white. There's a Sean Kern, white. No one's putting pressure on them. Jesse Letterman, white. Yes, contrary to some belief, he is white. I don't care where you grow up, you're white, you're white. But there's no pressure being put on these people. A lot of pressure is coming to me, Justin Hurst, the counselors that you see, right? But if you start putting pressure on those guys too, and you call them out, if they don't do anything, trust me, they're gonna get to work too. So if you got all 13 of us working instead of a few of us, a lot more is gonna get done in our community. And so let's be clear how important local politics are. If you want to get these resources, if you wanna know how you can get access to grants to help purchase a home or forgivable loans, which means you get the loan for 5 years and year after year, the loan amount drops until you don't have to pay nothing. That's local politics. If you don't know that there's free dental for somebody who just moved here, there's free dental and medical, that's local politics. Yes, it is. That's local politics too. So there's so many resources in the city of Springfield that belongs to you all because you're taxpayers. If you pay excise tax for your car, if you pay property tax, if you pay tickets, they try to ticket us every time you downtown, they wait for the meter to go. That's your money going to these services, yet you don't know about it, right? But then you got these police officers that's beating us. There's so many cases against them when they should be working to serve and protect us. Now we got good ones. The young ones coming up, they are good. They want something different. They want something new, but it's still the old guard in there. We got to start fighting against that. But it takes all of us. You all got to, flood the mayor. Anytime you want to know something, don't call me, call the mayor. See what they do. See what happens. And if they don't do anything, then you put them on blast. Okay, don't do it to us. Because give me a pass sometimes, right? Because I'm there most of the time. I'm there 89% of the time, right? But 11% of the time, my family got needs too. My father's sick too, you know? I raised 4 kids in foster care who are my brothers too, you know? So I still got a life and family and things to deal with too, so give us a pass. But on the local politics side, call all 13 of us. Call us all and see, who's gonna do something, and if they don't, stop voting for them. We got to, guys. We got to stop voting for them and put somebody in office who's gonna work for us and everybody else.
Can I also add, Congressman Hill gets a pass from our community every election. Everybody likes him because he comes through. He says hi. He went to school with a lot of our grandparents, and he gets a pass. Elizabeth Warren, senator, represents our district. Ed Markey represents our district. When they say all politics are local, billions of dollars on the federal level are not coming back to our community because we treat Congressman Hill, Markey, and Warren as if they're superstars and celebrities that we can't interact with, and we have to stop that. If you think your vote is invaluable, ask yourself why they always make visits to the most popular churches. Our voting influences, oh my God, it's so extensive. They judge our vote by who votes in Ward 4. Ward 4 is the smallest percentage of blacks. The vast majority of black people live in 5. We're in 5. We're in parts of 8, 5, 8, and there's another district. 5, 6, and 8.
So 5 is like Pine Point, 16 acres
5,
area.
7, and 8.
5, 7, and 8.
5, 7, 8. The vast majority of black folks live somewhere between 16 acres and Pine Point. So when they say black people are voting, they look at who voted at Rebecca Johnson, who voted up at Duggan, and who votes on Old Hill at the fire station. We're not really there anymore. If I look around this room, a lot of us aren't even in the square anymore. The square will always be home whether you're born here or not. So we have to start checking them and holding them accountable when it comes down to acknowledging our vote. We don't do that. We talk about the programs that you said, Pat, the basketball program. He asked, he wasn't sure if they're still doing the community center programs. Did you know that the majority of dollars that are coming from Boston have been reallocated? It used to come directly into the community. Those dollars are now public safety dollars. Almost $700,000+ goes to the police department through the SSYI, the Shannon, and other programs. They used to come directly to us to run these programs. The police department takes the same dollars. They go to Salvation Army, they go to ROCA, they go to all these white agencies because the fiscal infrastructure is tight and they can do that. Their fiscal infrastructure is always going to be tight as long as the dollars keep going to them. So when we talk about how significant is the political process, everything from getting your street plowed in the wintertime, when your garbage isn't getting picked up. If you want your kid to be bused, if you want your kid on the bus instead of walking through certain neighborhoods, dude, that's all political. There are so many things. I look at the number of people who were dealing with textile foreclosure. They had no idea. All you do is come see us up in the office. We'll walk you through the process so that you can hold on to your house. You'd be shocked how many of the houses up in Old Hill, Bay area, they were taking these houses and just giving them to AIC. It was like there was a partnership between the city and American International College, the city and Springfield College. They were taking the mosque, the other mosque on Hancock, I think it is. They stole the parking lot. There's a parcel of land that was given to them that's right across the street from it, and the city basically stole it. It was just so crazy the way they did it. They're so politically savvy, and these are things that we think we have no control over. But these are the things we have to start telling our folks. So you can fight this, and here is the process. In the past, for some reason, people would get all this information and would keep it in their pocket until they die. The difference with folks like Tracy and Justin on the city council, that information and the process to resolve those challenges are no longer a secret. I think we got in trouble when you made the announcement about the earmark because it's like everybody's top secret. You can get $300,000-$400,000 for the city of Guards. You can get $200,000-$300,000 for the program you have. All these other folks, for-profit, non-profit, they're getting state earmarks. Congressman Neal is getting earmarks for the Irish community from DC. Yeah. They're getting millions upon millions upon millions while they're telling us that we need to save our dollars and we need to find better, financial services so that we can maintain our fiscal infrastructure. So when we talk about the political process, we can't even begin to talk about the social ills. We can't address poverty. It's hard to even address equity unless we know where all the power pockets are. So for all the folks who say, I don't do politics, waking up black every morning, you're involved in the political process, whether you realize it or not. So I just wanted to add
Thank you, Daryl, for answering my question. No, I'm going to tell you why Daryl's a value, especially in the political process, because he was there firsthand. Now, people don't know, but he used to give me little nuggets. But of course, I couldn't tell who gave me the nuggets because he has a family, right? He has a family to raise. But then they found out that Daryl was giving me nuggets, and then they pushed Daryl out the door too. And so I was the first one to stand up on the city hall steps and say, "Leave my brother alone, or we're coming for you." They didn't leave him alone, and now we're coming. So I need all of y'all to get on board. We're gonna get a new mayor in there, and we're gonna get some of these people out that's pushing us out, because they pushed me out, they pushed Tashina Davis out, they pushed Daryl out, because these are the people who's gonna do right by our people. And they never want black people to get ahead. Black people always gotta be on the bottom. Why? Why is that? We always gonna rise to the top, and we're gonna rise to the top in the next mayoral election. All y'all votes count. All of it's important. So please, 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 gather your people, and we're gonna get behind this candidate, and we're gonna get a new mayor.
We have 5 black women right now who work at City Hall who are currently being targeted. 5 black women. We're just waiting for the okay for them to let us publish know. But they're really targeting. They are. When I say they're targeting, ever since George Floyd and Black Lives Matter process, that whole protest movement, they've been targeting all the black folks downtown. When I say targeting, they've been targeting.
Firing.
Yeah. So folks just need to be aware of that. So when we say we're not down with the political process, you need to understand that there are families at stake. People have to feed their kids.
Right.
Sorry.
Look, that was good. I let it run on, right? I let it run on, but I let it run on because this is politics 101. And the truth is, what we just heard fed the community, right? And so, if you want to know more, reach directly out to our sister city councilor, and reach directly out to Brother Demos, and get the information that they have. It's valuable. I'm going to try and tighten up a little bit with my moderation skills, and I'm going to send the next question to Youssef. Youssef, why is sport an important avenue for community activism?
Y'all got my vote. Just put it that way. Y'all got my vote. Why is sport an important avenue for community activism? I mean, I'm sure everybody in this room has a family member or a kid that's trying to make it to the NBA, trying to get a scholarship, or trying to play high school, any sport. So, you know, for me, activism for just giving back, because I went through that whole process. I went through getting the scholarship. I went through coaching at the highest, you know, one of the highest levels. And I always knew that I was hustling basketball, like, to get to some point, and I still do. And that's what I try to give back to kids is like, you can hustle. You can hustle. It doesn't have to be playing. It doesn't have to be coaching. It can be so many different avenues. You can walk onto a school and be a part of a program. So for me, you know, the reason why I do it is just to let them understand, like, listen, I know you're not making varsity, but yo, if you stick with it, you can put that on your resume and try to get a scholarship in another way, or try to get into a school another way. So for me, it's just building and trying to be like a resource, you know what I mean? So I have a lot of parents that reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram. Hey, my kid is a junior. What should he do? Should he go prep school? Should he try to? And it's like, hey, listen, like, what are his grades? What is it? He's got good grades. So give him a chance. Let him max out. You know what I mean? And just giving them like advice that I would have wished I had growing up, because when I was coming up, there wasn't a lot of people that went to college and was back here in the community and giving back. So I think now, you know, people in Springfield are really lucky right now, because we have a lot of people that have been through it, whether that's college, professional players that are, you know, building programs that these kids can grow up in. I know there's Kevin Freeman, he's coming back here. Jordan Allmore, he has his own facility in Springfield that you can go to as a middle school kid, like an elementary kid. So, you know, and he went through college, he coached it. So it's a lot of programs now that are really flourishing and putting people in good positions. So That's why it's kind of important. You know what I mean?
Thank you for
Tighten it
that.
up, tighten it up.
Well, it should be noted that you were succinct and to the point. So,
Hey,
Wait a minute.
you were succinct to the point, just a lot of it. Me too.
so let me just go to Demaya. Demaya, can you speak to the saying, "You are what you eat"? Why should our community redefine our eating habits?
I would say, personally, and as a group of friends that all has adopted the same lifestyle, it opens you up to just so many things in life that you just never. Changing your diet. Let me start there. Changing your diet opens you up to so many things in life that otherwise you wouldn't. And so, like for me, beginning this journey of very long years worth of work. And so when my dad first started the journey, I used to really reject eating the food, and I would like go home with my mom and eat whatever, right? Because I didn't know. And then as I was growing older, and then like he was kind of forcing the food on me by bringing it to me for lunch and then breakfast when he was bringing me to school. Like I went away to college, and that was the longest I ever been away from real food for 4 years. And my friends and I, we gained that freshman 15, like maybe more. And that summer, I just started noticing how bad that I felt. And something that I tell people all the time when they come in the garden is that our community, we're so used to feeling bad that it becomes normal. And so once you go on a life healing journey, because we push a holistic lifestyle, so it's not just what you eat, it's dealing with your mind, it's dealing with your physical body. And so once you make the steps to go on that, you start reflecting on how bad you felt. And once again, I'm 22 years old, and there are things that I can reflect back and say, wow, like I did not know how bad I felt. And so every day when people come in here, taking the little bits of advice that we give them, I know it works. Changing your life, changing what you're eating works, and then changing your mindset most of all works. And so what we tell people all the time is you can do anything that you put your mind to. A lot of people talk about food being something that they can just not do. And Brianna and I earlier were talking about how serious food addiction is. Like it's very serious. Like it's a drug. And like we don't realize how we're addicted to food, but once we re-engineer our mind, we do. And so like when my friends and I are cooking, we're like guessing the seasoning. We're like, oh my gosh, I can taste the dill. Wait, I can taste the cinnamon, the like ginger. And so like things that like we cook with real herbs now. And so like you don't know these things until you're exposed to them. And so like for me and for everyone that I've been around, adopting this new lifestyle has opened you up to being in tune with nature and being in tune with yourself.
I appreciate that answer. And what I take from that is what you know and what we all should know is that food is our medicine, right? It really is our medicine. To Daryl, what is the importance of a media platform created for the people, by the people? What have been some of the challenges associated with growing a Black-owned media platform?
I think narrative is narrative is everything. The stories that we tell ourselves, and that's the good part. The worst part is always relying on everybody else's media vehicles to tell us who we are. From the shows we watch on TV, the music we hear on the radio, news shows, other news publications. No one ever reports anything good about Black people. And I think it's important that we find stories that suit us, that build us and feed into our ego and our confidence and our ability to just be. narrative is everything, but someone else is constantly telling your story. You're relying on them to define who you are. We talk about, to thy own self be true. How do you do that when you haven't figured out who you are because you have no control over the information flow? And I think the information begins with the media. So I think for me, that's the biggest piece, being able to tell our stories. In terms of the challenges, there really hasn't been any challenges. The only challenge would be, getting folks to understand that, if you have a story to tell, you absolutely have access. Just send it to me. I don't care if your grandmother's turning 89 or 98, send it to us and celebrate that. So it's getting people used to, celebrating themselves or writing stories about their achievements, their successes. If your child graduated from 5th grade and you never thought he would, write about it. Or contact us and we'll write about it. These are the things we need to hear. Anything, a new business opening, let us know, because that's what this is really all about. Louis the Reminder, the Republican, Mass Live, they're always celebrating white successes. But whenever they show Black folks, it's always something negative. We can't do it. If there's a community event, they will always be preceded by an article on a shooting or a robbery or something. They'll always have police sirens. We did that thing at Woke Up before. And for Channel 22, they showed the flashing lights of the police crews. They say, in light of recent shootings, a group came together and they had a community. It's like, this wasn't because of the shooting, this was because we're celebrating us. But, we get upset about what they write, but the bottom line is, we can write this ourselves. We can put out 25,000 newspapers, whether people read them or not. We're going to put them up, and so you'll have the option to pick them up and read them. So that's cool. We're getting the challenge, getting our folks to embrace it, own it, and make it theirs.
It'll be real brief. So when we talk about media outlets, we also need to advertise with our own. Like, if anyone's having an event, if you're getting some funding, don't give it to them. Give it to our own media outlets, because they don't run these media outlets for free. They have to pay for the printing and the paper and the advertising. So we got to support ourselves in everything that we do. Everything. And that's it.
So before I go to the rest of the panel, I just want to make an observation about Daryl's platform. One thing that we do not get in our system, in the public school system, is any level of self-esteem. And so in the mental health work that we do, we have a formula. We talk about what is self-esteem. It's a mathematical formula. Some of you have heard me say this before. It is like 1 + 2 = 3. Self-esteem is confidence plus competence equals self-esteem. You can find that when you pick up Brothers Paper. Our young people can see themselves evolving when you pick up Brothers Paper. What this does, controlling our narrative, controls how far we can go in life. It's a very important medium, and brother, I tell you all the time, you're the African paper for me. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
Me too.
So back to the rest of the panel, and I want Tracy and Daryl to model themselves after Maya and Yusef.
Model ourselves after?
But in terms of time.
Did you see how quick I was about the advertisement? Did you guys see that?
So back to the panel. What does an evolved Springfield look like for you?
Daryl gave me the microphone, saying on the future. So I will speak for myself and then on behalf of Crew Collab too. Like, when Yusef mentioned what Issa Rae has done within Insecure, that's really the vision that we talk about all the time. And so for Springfield, a lot of times we'll go away and we'll see a connection to pop culture and Black people that we feel is lacking in Springfield. And so what we want to do with the intentional lifestyles that we do, we want to make people understand that like it doesn't matter what walk of life you're coming from, but you can live with intention. And so I think that for an evolved Springfield for me looks like people from all walks of life that are in this room right now coming together for the same purposes, knowing that we are stronger together, and when we're in each other's company, that it's just a good time. And so I think that like bridging the gap between all different ages is the way we can do that. And so that's what all Springfield looks like for me.
That was brilliant. There's a African saying, Ubuntu. I am because you are, and you are because I am. And I think you spoke directly to that. Does anybody else on the panel want to answer that question?
I'm gonna hold my words. No, I'm not. All right, so this is the point that I wanted this question because in my new role, so I'm the executive director of a coalition for an equitable economy. And so in this role, I get to focus on Black businesses and growing Black businesses, growing their equity, growing their capital, growing their funding, growing them. And I've never seen anything like this before. Like, it's everybody at the table, all the organizations, whether they're white, Latinx. So let me just disclaimer, we focus on Black first, then Latinx, then immigrants, then low income, right? Women fall in all those categories, so I don't have to pull that out. But I've never seen any organization that focused on Black first. And then they got me. So they was focusing on Black in Boston. And when you guys, so I'm so excited about it, I can't even get it out sometimes. When you guys see the resources that they got in Boston, helping those businesses grow. And so there's a program that will help our Black businesses get all the legal information they want, get their accounting set up, get their payroll set up, get their, just get them ready for grant funds. Because if you don't have the reporting mechanisms in place, if you don't have the HR in place, if you don't have the legal mechanisms in place, they're gonna say you're not ready for this funding, right? And so this program helps you get all that in place. You get it all in place, and then how they gonna say, nope, I know we got this funding, but we ain't giving it to you because you're Black. Because that's what they really do. We not giving it to you because you're Black, because best believe these white people don't have all these things in place, but they still get the funding, and then they help them along, right? They help them get to where they need to be. And so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get you the funding and help you where you need to be. And so it's so exciting to me that I can help all of our Black businesses, our small Black businesses. So it's a focus on businesses and small Black businesses. It's mostly for-profit businesses, but how I can help nonprofits, I will. But it's so exciting to me because what I see in Springfield evolving is all of our Black businesses being able to be on this level where they can get access to this funding. Now, it's not all grants, guys, but these people get $1 million in a loan, and in a year, they are making $10 million. So you can't think of it like, oh, this is a loan and I don't want to pay it back. You got to think of it as how I can scale up, how I can do better with this $1 million. I'm going to take this $1 million and I'm going to make it $10 million in 1 year. And that's my goal. And I'm going to make it happen. And you can. And so we got to stop thinking in a box and not wanting to pay things back. And I'm sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time, but I am passionate about this, Sean. So thank you for telling me to take the mic. But it's just so amazing and exciting where we're about to go. And I'm telling y'all right now, I'm bringing it to Western Mass, but I'm focusing on Black businesses first and foremost. I'm gonna help everybody else because I have to, you know. I report to some executives that are Latinx and white, and these other things, immigrants and stuff. So I gotta help them, but I'm telling you, I'm focusing on Black businesses first. Now, what I'm not gonna do is chase people to get it done. I'm gonna give you the resource. And if you really want it, you're going to get it done. And if you have questions, I'm going to be there to answer you. I'm going to give you the resource, but you got to put the effort into it to make it grow. And so when I see Springfield evolving on a small business level, I see that we are going to be able to compete in every market. On every corner is going to be a Black business that has whatever you need, whatever service you need, and we're going to be going to our full potential together And I see that for all of us. And I love it!
So I'm gonna move on.
Sorry.
No, you're good, sister. But in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on, and the next question is gonna go to you, Seth. And how have you been able to balance growing your platform across states with continuing your work in Springfield?
I think it starts from seeing yourself in the kids that I was working with. So whenever I would throw an event in Springfield, I saw myself in these kids. Like every kid that wanted to get a scholarship, do whatever, I always saw myself in them. So that was one of the reasons. And another reason was, selfishly, I was building my skill set. You know what I mean? With this event, I was still working full time, but this was like a side hustle. But selfishly, I was building my own marketing, reaching out to people, networking, doing all these things, fundraising, trying to get sponsorships, doing all that, and building a team that kind of believed in the vision, for 7 years. And a lot of people don't realize that when I tell them about City of Guards, it was 7 years straight. Every year we would do it. We gave back over $25,000 in scholarships to inner city kids for scholarships. So that was always like the foundation was like, this is why I'm doing it. I'm going to do it for here because this is where I came from. I didn't see anybody before me doing that. You know what I mean? That went off to college and doing that. So that was my thing. Like if I come back, if I get on, I'm going to try to put everybody else on. And then, like I said, the selfish aspect of it allowed me to grow, allowed me to build my skill set. And with the Bitcoin Classic where I'm at now, and that's kind of national now, I won a grant. Speaking of grants, I won a grant from the founder of Block Inc., who they own, Tidal? They own Cash App. They own Cash App. So they gave me a grant to kind of put this on throughout the U.S., and it was a blessing, but it was all because of, City of Guards and where I started, building that foundation, having the information ready and handy for them to say like, oh yeah, he has everything that he needs in order. So that kind of helped me grow that. And then another thing too is now that Cash App is actually sponsoring my next tournament, which is which is crazy to me. Like I'm looking at, 5 years ago, I was at the Hall of Fame throwing a tournament, and now to have Cash App be involved in something that I'm doing is major. So, that was the foundation, just always trying to get back to where I was from. That's the kind of grounded me and wanted me to be consistent in growing it. But yeah.
That was not a short answer, folks, just for the record.
Are you trying to mimic me?
I am not. I can't do the English accent. I wish I could.
So, but I love my sister. Matter of fact, the last time I saw my sister, I'm sure I went over and bought her a bottle of wine to thank her for all the hard work that she does for us. Anyway, Demaya, describe your experience with entrepreneurship as a young adult.
Ever changing. That's all I can say. Ever changing. I think since 15 years old, literally, I didn't know that like this was getting ingrained into my DNA, right? I had no idea, but Zeb, that was his mission, right? And so every time I'm out with my friends and we have these brainstorming / dream sessions, right? I'm telling them everything is a business opportunity. You can make money doing everything you want to do.
That's right.
And so for me right now, in this transitional period in life, because I just love hearing Yusuf talk about what he's talking about, because sport management was my major in school. And so, but like doing the Issa Rae stuff and then doing the food, like for me, I'm trying to figure out a formula to make it all mesh together. And I know that in entrepreneurship, you can do that. And so I'm really excited, and entrepreneurship, or like just being, it's taught me networking. That's how I really met all these people on this panel and then all these people in this room. And so for me, the ability to network is gonna allow me and everyone around me to do the things they want to do and still make money off of it. And so
Thanks, appreciate it. Tracy, I'm coming directly back to you. I wrote this question, and I wrote it for you, Tracy.
And I got it. I got something for you too, because I know you did.
What are your thoughts on mental health treatment for people of color? And what can you do in your role to ensure providers of color are receiving funds/grants?
So my thoughts on mental health is that I have some issues. Again, I need services myself. Sometimes, you know, I've called you a couple times already. Like, can you get me a therapist? Right? That's real. That's real. Like, we all have times when we struggle in life, and I do too. And so I think the treatment for people of color is definitely needed because there's always been a stigmatism in our community. That person's crazy. You know, I got folks with schizophrenia in my family, you know, really close to me, like aunts, uncles, right? And we all have mental health challenges and people dealing with mental health challenges in our family. And so I think that it's important that we acknowledge it as people of color. We realize it as people of color, and we get the help we need. We deserve it. Like, you paying this insurance, you get some type of mental health coverage in your insurance. You better take that coverage and get the treatment that you need, because just like taking care of your body and eating right, you gotta take care of your mental too, you know? And so that's why I appreciate the African Dysphoria Mental Health Association, because they focus on our needs specifically. Getting the grant funding, I'm in a position to do it. Let's talk after this. We're gonna get you that money.
There you go. And I appreciate you seriously, sis, and you know that. And, you know, I know that you care about mental health for our people of color, and I want you to specifically talk to that. Daryl, you spoke about letting one's work speak for a person. What inspired this perspective?
My father. My mom was a preacher, so we grew up in the church, and he would always talk about people who live a life, who talk about a life that they don't live. And he used to always say, you know, let your work speak for you. I'm not a great speaker. I am not an orator. But when it comes down to getting my hands dirty, rolling up my sleeves and getting up into work, I think that's important. At the end of the day, if you really want to leave your mark on the world, you leave your mark through your work. So there are people who want to leave, but they have no body of work. And I say, as we look to new leadership, we should be looking at people who are leaving behind bodies of work. They're in there getting the work done. They're doing what has to get done. If you're not doing that, then you're just talking. And rhetoric gets us nowhere. That's the short answer.
I'm going to direct the next question to Daryl and Tracy because of your area of expertise. Can you give your thoughts on how the Latino, in quotes, and the African Americans, in quotes, continue to be politically divided?
It is really, if we're being completely honest, I think it boils down to, if you have two starving families, you have the people from the leadership of each of those families struggling to make sure that their family is fed. So when you look at the history of Black folks in this country, we've aligned ourselves with the Jews, and once they got a chance to move up, they did, and we were left behind. They became gatekeepers for Black folks. When you look at the Irish, if you ever read the book, How the Irish Became White, before the Irish became white, it talks about on slave plantations how the Irish were deemed lesser in value than the Black people. They were the only folks allowed to intermarry and intermingle with Black people. They found an area, they found a niche that worked for them in terms of public safety. They went from being overseers to officers. They were the firemen. They were the folks who grabbed their shovels and threw the coal in the machines. They worked alongside Black folks. Once they got to the point where they were able to control all the entry points, they marched us out and they moved on. You look at almost every group that comes in, they identify with the Black community. And once they're able to move forward, once they move to manage their positions, people begin to guard the gate. And they make sure that their family, their community members get in. And I think we're finally at a time when the Black community is saying, I can't put up an umbrella for everybody. This umbrella is for my family as we build, equity. We'll talk the conversations around equity, power, having that voice at the table. I can't create a voice for everybody, but I can create a voice for mine. I can create economic opportunities for mine, but I can't do it for everybody. So as we align ourselves with the Latino community, we have to ask ourselves, politically speaking, that is, it has nothing to do with personal relationships, but political means business. We have to make sure that everything is going to be fair unequivocally across the board. If I fight for you, I need you to fight for me as well. If I advocate for you to get economic resources so you can sustain yourself, I need you to do the same thing for me. But working downtown at City Hall for 12 years, the last episode, after the Black Lives Matter protest that got us all in trouble, before the fight was even over, they were meeting with the mayor. Both leaders from that community were meeting with the mayor, and they were only lobbying for themselves. I got invited into the meeting late, and I'm like, well, you're not even marching. You're not doing anything to help the situation, but you're the first ones to meet. And they just looked at me like I was crazy. We got into it with the mayor, the chief of staff, and it was just like, listen, the Black community is out there marching. We're getting, going through, just going through the rigmarole. And this group is here. Every word out of their mouth is, because in the Latino community, we need. And I'm like, well, how about the Black and brown? What happened to that language? It's not just happening here, it's happening on the state level. We have state legislators, awesome people on a personal note. But when we start talking about the divvying of resources that are coming from Massachusetts, they're very clear about, well, I have to take care of my people first, and then I got you. And the problem with Black folks is we're not honest about that relationship. We refuse to call people out, but we'll go on 90.7, get in our publications, and we'll blow up each other. So if we're going to align ourselves with someone, then we need to make sure that, unequivocally, across the board, that fair is going to be fair. And that hasn't happened historically, and it's not happening now.
Tracy, anything to?
I'm gonna be 100. In my experience, and I'm talking about my experience, it's difficult because it seems like, you support Black or you're Afro-Latino when it benefits you, right? When it benefits you. But if it's not a benefit to you, then you're divided. And so I see that too often. I have put a post on Facebook about Black History Month. I love being Black. And, it's the Latino, Latinx, Hispanic, whatever they want to call themselves, brown, that will say, well, I'm Black too. Can we celebrate? I never said you couldn't celebrate. Celebrate with us. I'm glad that you recognize it. I'm glad that you recognize it. There's nothing to get upset about. We want to embrace everybody that consider themselves Black. So why on this post are you being aggressive with me? Because I didn't exclude any of you. I didn't exclude anyone, but I'm going to unequivocally be Black. And I'm going to unequivocally love my Black people all the time. So why is it a problem for you? Because when it's Hispanic Heritage Month and it's WIPA and all these things, WIPA and Boricua and this and that, we don't have a problem with it. Celebrate who you are. It's always a problem when we celebrate who we are. And that is where I feel that there's a disconnect. We can all appreciate and love our culture and who we are and love that without there being a problem with other races, but it's always a problem with other races because they always want to keep us on the bottom. And even in politics, right? I will support you when you have this and that going on, but the minute they put this Latino cop, put this negative picture of George Floyd on his profile, not one Latino person came out and spoke against that. Not one. But every time something happens in the Latino community, they want us to stand up and speak up and join with us. And Black and brown, we got to unify and this and that. No, it got to work both ways. It has to work both ways. And so I have a problem with that.
So just a follow-on question. How do we fix that relationship?
We got to talk about it and we got to keep it real. I'm me all the time. So
It requires a
brutally honest conversation. So when I'm in the room with Adam Gomez and Orlando and Carlos and all of them, I'm telling them how I feel. Why didn't y'all say one word when your your Latino officer did this photo with, no, I don't even say it to them. I say it right in the city council meeting, right in public. Let everybody hear it. Why didn't y'all stand up? Why didn't y'all stand up? I would have stood up for you. But you don't stand up for us. And then, but you want us to be there and share everything that we get, even our Black History Month. Shortest month of the year. Let us have something too. But let's come together where we can, because if we unify, we are so powerful in this city if we unify, you know? But we gotta stop being like, okay, in certain situations we support you, in other situations we don't be quiet. But we support you in the background, you know? I don't like that. We gotta be honest about these conversations.
And I appreciate the perspective, and the question was really written because it's a problem that we need to address.
We do.
And so I'm hoping moving forward, that we will all see the benefit of that being addressed, because there's a reality, and that reality is we are the same. That is
We are. And when we did Black Lives Matter after George Floyd's death and after so many other deaths, and then you're silent on that, like you don't come out and you don't stand with me on that, I have issues with that.
I'm gonna move forward.
Okay, you got one thought.
Okay. Yeah.
One
I
thought.
think part of the problem is us.
Right.
We have to learn to speak up on our behalf.
Mhm.
Every culture lobbies and speaks up for themselves, clearly, loudly, articulately. We're the only ones when we talk about Black issues. We have to learn to speak up, own who we are. We have to lobby and advocate for ourselves before we expect other people to do it. So that
Sure.
alliance won't happen until we learn to speak for ourselves.
Sure. Okay, we're closely coming to the last two questions, and then we're going to open it up, because that was the plan, that we would have some audience panel Q&A. So we're almost there. To anyone on the panel, what has been some of your most proud moments?
So I actually thought this event was yesterday, so I drove up from Connecticut yesterday for this event and ended up spending the day with my mother. Yeah, that's my mother, my daughter right there. Right here. Yeah.
Hello.
So yeah, I came up yesterday, and we ended up going to Self Juices on right across. Yeah, we ended up going there, and the lady behind the cash register, she's like, "Yusuf?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, you gave a scholarship to my son, Anthony Kelly." Yeah, and she's like, "Gave a scholarship to my son, Anthony Kelly, a couple years back." And it just inside that just felt good. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, I didn't even recognize you. But she said, just thank me for that. So that's something that I'm proud of that we was able to give back and do things like that.
Thank you, Anybody else?
I'm going to say when we created the Association of Black Business and Professionals, it was cool to see things being played forward. I was able to step off the board and hand the organization over to, folks I knew from when they were like 13 and 14. So to see people that you mentor or work with as teenagers come back, I
got one problem on it. My niece, she looked up on the refrigerator and she was like 3 years old, and she said, "I'm gonna be a city councilor."
That's an amazing realization. I mean, I know you said it jovially, but that is that whole idea around self-esteem and where we can go. Demai, did you want to add?
I don't want to add. I just want to do some more work for this. And then and then add to it the next time.
All right, well, look, I'm looking at the next two questions, and I really believe that they've been answered in a lot of what we've heard already. So why don't we spend the next 20 minutes? We've got a lot of people that are here that have come to listen to our panelists. Why don't we open it up for Q&As? You can feel free to come and get the mic, or you can just speak directly to the panelists.
I don't have a question. If people don't want to get up to get the mic.
Got you. Would you like the mic?
No.
Okay.
This is for the city council. Well, you know, I see you all the time, so. Right. So, I wanted to know how we have access to the funding for, like, open up our business and things like that. And also have one for yourself as well. And I just wanted to know if you have, like, can somebody invest in your business?
So having access to the funding is kind of like who you know right now, or like doing your own research. Like you can go online and Google just about anything. But to the funding that I have access to, I'm still learning it. So probably give me like a month, and then I'll have a better answer for you for the funding that's coming from the state, because this is a state job that I have, it's a statewide initiative. As far as city funding, same thing. I can let folks know as it come out. I do try to put it on my Facebook page. I don't do all the social media platforms. I'm older. I'm not good yet, and I don't have an intern or anything. And so I don't know how to do those, but I'm looking for someone. And so, but you can call me. Sometimes if you hear something or you need something, I'll always be able to look it up or guide you in the right direction. Okay. Oh yes, and I've been putting it in Metro Record. See, that's why y'all need to get Metro Record, because Point of View, Metro Record. I even give it to the Republican, they don't publish it. So make sure that you look into the Metro Record and Point of View.
We're not there yet, like in accepting investments and all that, still building it out and grinding, but that's at one point, yeah, we hope to get to that level where we can. So I'll definitely put it in the Metro.
Demaya, did you have one? I mean, sorry.
I
Sorry.
I don't have a question, but on the topic of Metro News, we do have some papers here that we encourage us to. And yes, you have one of our panelists on the front, so be sure to collect those on your way out. And we'll always be in contact with Daryl, so wherever we go, these papers will go with us.
All right.
Is it online as well? Yes.
Any other question?
I have a question. Oh, go ahead. You can go ahead.
I just wanted to know.
Would you like the mic or you?
How do we get numbers and places where we can contact the other city councilors that you're saying that we need to speak to them as well as you?
So you can go to the City Hall website. They changed the HTTPS thing. So they changed it. It used to be SpringfieldCityHall.com, but if you Google that, it'll bring up the website. And if you search city councilors, it'll pull up all of us and all of our information. And they're like, all of it. Just don't come to my house. Somebody came to my house. Yeah, somebody knocked on my door about ARPA funds. I was like, you crazy? Let me give Gary a call. Something ain't right. But yeah, all of our numbers are right there on the website, so you can get in touch with us. Please make them work, guys. Make them work.
Well, if you call 787-6000, they'll patch you right through the city council and ask for any and all of them.
Or 311. They can all also get our numbers.
Yeah.
Just want to remind everybody that we have really the wealth of knowledge up here right now. So this is a good time to get some questions out. So anybody else have a question out?
Oh, I did.
I have a question. So listening to you guys all speak, like we all really get the sense that you're passionate about your community, and that's obviously, I would say, the demographic you're most comfortable kind of working with. But obviously, listening to you talk about like grants, working with the city, obviously your media outlets, you work with all kinds of people. Like, what is some more advice you can give on navigating these different worlds and spaces? Because I understand that it can be very negative, you could feel isolated, you could be polarized.
Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Don't compromise your integrity for no one or nothing. Doesn't matter. Growing up in an all-white town, it's no different than growing up in an all-black community. It's like the bottom line is to navigate, research, constantly build. That's number one. If you know this stuff, nobody can question you on anything. Number two, if you know who you are, nobody can push you in any other direction aside from the direction you want to go into. When it comes down to navigating, that's all I can say. That's how I feel.
To Daryl's point, I finally I'm getting confident in all the things that you say you want to do, or like that you just see in your head. Like Ashley always talks about playing the movie trailer in your mind, like getting confident about that and seeing how beneficial it is when you just live for the things that you see. And so like this festival, this week of events, like it was a long time coming, and it's coming together in ways that we never could imagine. But I think that once you start being confident about who you are inside and then speaking about it outwardly, everyone has no choice but to accept it. And so like a lot of times, like I think that like, especially as a young person, I was in college, like I left for a moment, and it's the question that I get all the time: are you going back? Are you going back? I'm doing something that I really enjoy, and I'm doing something that I always saw doing myself doing, and I'm doing that because I just started doing it. Or even just accepting my role as a business owner, or like 2 years ago during the pandemic, accepting that full-time role as a business owner, and not just putting like, Brianna used to tell me all the time, Demaya, like you do not put like manager at the garden, like you own it. And so just stepping into these roles that like you see for yourself, I think once you do that, the rest follows.
I think being authentic and just being you, right? Don't let anybody change you. Everywhere you go, they're gonna say Tracy gonna be Tracy. She gonna say it, you know? They gonna say that. And so you just gotta and question everything. Don't believe what people say. Research it for yourself. Even Zeph used to try to tell me all these things, and he says in the Bible, show me, Zeph, and what was the context behind what you're showing me? What were they talking about? What happened right before? And so he stopped bringing that Bible out on me, right? So, but I do it to city councilors too, because just because they've been there longer than me doesn't mean that they know more than me, especially when it comes to the finance. And there's one in particular that thinks he knows everything. And so I challenge him. I challenge him all the time, and I do my own research, even with, they gave away $6.5 million to these conglomerates that are rich, right? And they said we had to do that or they wouldn't have got this underfunding. So I called the other funding source. I said, if we don't give them this money, will you still give them your money? And they said, yes. That's not a prerequisite. I came back to the meeting prepared. I let them say it again, and I shut them down. That's not true. I got it in writing. I pulled up the email from the organization because you're not telling me anything. So do your research.
See, just to piggyback research, yeah. So I'm in Bitcoin crypto space with this company that I'm starting in. If you think about Bitcoin, you think of nerdy white dudes. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. When you're in these rooms, it's a lot of like real technical white people in these rooms. So when you're in this space, you want to know what you're talking about. You want to be knowledgeable. So I think just doing your own research and being prepared, then you can do whatever you want. I mean, they may talk it a little better than you, but you know the foundation and the importance of it, and they can't take that from you.
I'm gonna add one last thing. Build your social capital. Your value is enhanced by the people you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself with dope people who know their stuff, you'll always have a resource base. So whatever you do, build your social capital. Be able, always have the capacity to pick up the phone and call somebody for support, for information. Build your social capital. That's it.
Daryl's my social capital. So is Demaya and all of you. And Yusuf now.
Coming back to the audience, any other questions?
Justin Hurst. It's a secret between us, but I'm putting it out there. And it's live for all of y'all. Justin Hurst.
You know what? And on that note, when we talk about setting egos aside, we talk about the future of Springfield, just the ability to let old, don't make sure everybody hears this. Just to set, we have to learn to take old battles and beefs and throw them to the side. I don't think there's ever been a time that I'll give you an example. I'll throw myself out there.
Yes.
Me and Justin have never gotten along. Politically, we were always polar opposites. But when you see that you have a similar vision, when you discover that you have similar goals and you have a common enemy, you learn to throw all that stuff to the side to build. I think we have to end the days where my clique ain't rocking with your clique, even if we know we go in the same direction. If we're on the same team, let's be on the same team. So just so folks know, I'm Team Justin, and we're going all out to make sure that we replace that dude downtown, not because, and people get it twisted, it's not because they fired me. The day I had that press conference up in front steps, that was pretty much sealed. Yeah. So I'm okay with that. It's just, it's time for a change. And I think for the first time in the 25 years I've been here, we're really discovering the resources that the city actually has. And we won't be able to tap into it until we change the mayor so that we can change the department heads and change those gatekeepers, those entry-level folks at the door.
I'm holding a grudge.
Can I just say something real quick? So
Please do.
you just said, the beef aside. I think that's a lot of our issues as Black people. I think that's where we don't come together enough. Just like we were talking about the 5 Black people that run the city council. You know what I mean? Yeah. Why can't they come together and say, okay, I know you want this, we're gonna bet on this one. We're gonna put all our work and we're gonna bet on this one. We're gonna get him in there, whatever he needs, whatever they need, we're gonna back him. I think we need to start doing more of that. And how do we get to that?
Let me address that, because that's a mental health issue, right? And I mean that sincerely. Through our colonialism, we have begun to behave in a way where we're working against each other, right? That's mental health. There is no reason why we shouldn't be doing what you're suggesting. Matter of fact, that's the only way. And so if we can get back to who we are, we'll move away from individualism and get back to collectivism, where we're working as a collective, as a group of people. And so, I'm glad that you raised that issue, because, and Darryl, what you just spoke to is that it's moving away from individualism and really getting back to what we need to achieve as a collective. Now, it is 5 minutes to 9. And so I'm going to bring this to a close. Otherwise, we can go all day. So what I want to say is, to Demaya and to the rest of the panelists, thank you very much. Thank you for your level of expertise. Demaya, I have to say this. Zeph is in the room and smiling. And this, if you didn't know, was put your money where your mouth is. And on that, we're going to close.
Girl said we should have a community poll to see who everybody wants. to see who everybody wants for Ward 5, and then we just go with the community. Community choice. But I don't even know how to do that.
What ward you live in, you can still vote for.
No, you gotta live in Ward 5 to vote for this candidate.
And then that's why they vote.